Hi Calvin, how's it going? I wanted to put out a video. Maybe I was hoping maybe to do one a week. I put out a video last week, kind of an introduction video, and this week, in light of the change in the debate, where it's more of it's not a debate. It was always a meet the candidates night that Jed and Juanita are going to be putting on coming up soon. I decided to answer some questions that were posed by a taxpayer on Calvin Convo. So I don't know. There's 9 questions. I thought I'll go through them, and you know, I think they're important questions, and challenge the others as well to answer them, especially the incumbents. So these are not questions I made up. These are questions that were given to me by a rate or posted by a ratepayer on Calvin Convo. So let's go through them. Number one, the township has lost many employees over the last term. Why do you think this is so, and what are your ideas for retaining future employees? Oh, I mean, we have, we've lost 6 employees over the last 4 years, and not every situation is unique. They're not all for the same reasons by any means, but I think it's worth mentioning that we need to find an effective and reliable clerk that can manage a fair process and oversee everyone and make sure everyone's doing their jobs, make sure that they're happy, they can bring grievances to council. I think one of the things that I was really worried about was communication, and I think there still is a lack of communication between employees and council, where councillors are allowed to ask employees questions, are allowed to communicate with them, to understand where they're coming from, and what they're trying to accomplish and how they're trying to work with council. One of the other things that's worth noting is councils recently delegated, as of last year or so, delegated this hiring and firing process to Peggy Lovelace. I mean, she's was heavily involved in E4M. She's an E4M lady, and I think council should take back that authority over hiring and firing. Also, the municipality doesn't conduct exit interviews, and I think when you're talking with people that are leaving, it's important because you want to, if they agree to it, you want to have them in to say, why did you leave? What are the reasons? Can you help us figure out how to do things in a better way, right? So that if there are any suggestions, that we at least can be more aware of what the reasons are for people leaving. So that was the first question. The second question is, after training our clerk for 3 years, we lost her to calendar. What should we do about replacing her? I mean, I think this is a top priority, replacing the clerk. We got to post it. We got to put it out there, and we got to offer competitive wage and show that we do have a good working environment. It could be helpful to have an employee, try to have an employee that has strong ties to the community. It's more likely they'll be retained for a longer period of time. And I think also it could be beneficial to explore if we have contract requirements, like if we pay for training for someone that happens over a year or 2 years, that there might be some conditions of employment that need to be met, simply so they, we don't want to be training employees and them just taking the training and moving on as fast as they can. It's a tricky thing, but I think there's some small things we could do there to make it so people do stay around, and especially when we're paying for training for them. Number 3, code of conduct imposed on fire department has further weakened the team. What will you do to help build our fire department again? I think the morale on the fire department is all-time low. I speak from experience. And I don't think it's necessarily super complicated to fix. There's a couple basic things. I'm going to highlight 3 basic things that I think could be done quite easily. The third, maybe not quite easily, but the first 2 are very easy changes to recent things that have been done. We can change the expected conduct policy for firefighters. We just need to delete one paragraph that says that firefighters are not allowed to criticize council, individual councillors. That one clause right there is problematic. kind of limits. Well, it does, not kind of. It limits freedom of speech, particularly around. Not particularly around. It limits freedom of speech when it comes to politics, when it comes to governance and whatnot of the municipality. So that one change would make a big difference. Change the COVID policy. Our COVID policy is outdated. COVID has changed so much over the past 2 years, and the policy was late to be introduced. I believe it was out of date when it was introduced, and it's still, now it's even further out of date. We should make it challenging for volunteer firefighters to, respond to a scene. If you're not going to test certain people and not other people, the masking part of the policy is out of date. It's just some simple changes to just bring it up to date. And thirdly, there's a little bit of an issue with the selection of a chief. I think we need someone well respected by someone that treats everyone fairly. I think that's where a lot of the morale went wrong in the fire department, is that there were certain things that were okay for some people to do and not for others to do. And some people got punished and others didn't for various minor things. And I think that, Chief Maxwell treated everyone fairly. He gave everyone, he's a fair and well-respected guy. And I would like to look at bringing him back to help clean up the fire department and get us back on track. Because I think he had 30 years of dedication to the community, and I hope he has at least one or two more left, at least just to straighten it out, to get everything back in order, and then we could, if he doesn't want the job or there's someone better for the role, but there needs to be a transition. You can't just remove Chief Maxwell and think that everything's going to be perfect and someone's just going to easily slide into that position with no issues. There has to be a transition there, and that's what I'm advocating for, bringing Chief Maxwell back. Question 4. E4M is playing a major role in managing our township affairs. Do you think this should continue? They absolutely are playing a major role in managing the township affairs. They've been involved in every staffing decision. Through Peggy Lovelace is the lady that's tasked with all of our HR. They're creating policy. They're heavily involved. And do I think this should continue? The short answer is no. I think they've proven themselves to be ineffective and disorganized based on what's happened with hiring and firing in the last year, 2 years. And employee morale is not great. I mean, it's not hard to see that a lot of people aren't happy working in our municipality. And this is a problem that's existed after they started to fix things. So I'm just questioning what kind of value we're getting for that relationship. Question 5. Changes to the agenda format to remove the monthly financial statements was recently done. Do you think this was a good idea? I'm assuming this is in reference to disbursements being removed from the agenda. So traditionally on the agenda every 2 weeks, you would see the bills for those 2 weeks, and council would vote to approve the disbursements, approve the bills, and it provided a level of transparency on the kind of daily, keep tabs on what's being spent daily, and we see that every 2 weeks, once a month. I believe E4M suggested that this be removed. There was a discussion of this previously, and Councillor Shipman put this resolution forward, and it was passed. So they removed these bills. The ability for you to see these bills easily on the minutes. I'm in favor of reversing this decision and increasing access publicly to the finances. It's a municipality. It's not a corporation. It's not even a not-for-profit. It's different. It's a municipality. It's a public. It's a public entity. It's to serve the public, and the public has a right, I believe, to know, what's going on. To the extent where there's sensitive business deals or something that need to just be delayed, but the public should always, at any point, always know or be able to access without a million hoops to jump through basic financial questions, any financial question. One question a lot of people have is what's the latest amount of money we've spent on E4M and their partners? It's not easy to access. We'd likely have to do freedom of information, but numbers like that are, to see those bills come across and then you could tally them up over a period of time, that would be useful. So I am in favor of reversing this and bringing disbursements back. 6. If elected, would you continue to use Jake from Summit PCG as Councilor's public relations person? My understanding is Summit PCG is a public relations company from Sault Ste. Marie, and they've been hired to write our newsletter. They've also written editorials. Jake himself, Pastor, has written an editorial saying how awesome a job council is doing, and I believe they may have been behind some of the other publications that are put out. It's hard to know exactly what they're doing. I haven't seen these specific bills, but I mean, if you had asked anybody involved in Calvin politics, 2-3 years ago, if we would have our own HR firm, I think everyone would laugh you out of the room. That being said, I don't see why we have a need for a public relations firm in Calvin. We seem to put a flyer out just fine before that, and yeah, it just seems silly to me. Possibly and a waste of money. 7. The election process this time around doesn't allow for an in-person voting. Do you agree with this? Short answer is no. So I do have a little bit of a complicated, I suppose, opinion on this because I feel like there's a potential that we could use electronic voting, but the way in which this was handled was at the last minute, last second, zero public consultation, take it or leave it. We're having full electronic voting with no paper ballot. And even at that meeting during the voting, you could tell there was some confusion about the idea that there was going to be zero paper ballot amongst the councillors as they voted. Some of them seemed to know what was going on, and others, seemed to have a lot more questions. In itself, it's maybe not a terrible thing. It's just the way that there was no public input, and I think my opinion is when I talk to people, they want an opportunity to vote in person. They always have, and I think it was a mistake to make this change in such a rushed way, and fundamentally change the system of voting by paper ballot that is not broken. It worked perfectly fine. The scrutineers, we have local election staff to fundamentally change that to a new system. They claimed it was going to save money. I'm skeptical. I don't think was in the voters. I don't think the voters would have wanted that. I don't. So I am supporting a paper ballot for future elections. Number 8, our township has lost a number of employees and councillors this last term. What do you think happened? So, just as a quick summary, we've lost 6 staff members and 4 councillors due to various reasons, either quitting, resigning, leaving, or being fired. I'll try to make this answer short. I mean, the issue is at the top with leadership, I believe. Mayor Pennell and E4M and council are leading. They're at the top of the hiring pyramid, and I believe that the simple way to fix this is to change the leadership would address our high staff turnover. That to me is pretty simple. Number 9, traditional council sets a remediation for the incoming council, but this year a bylaw was passed after nominations were closed to give raises to sitting members and to have it retroactive to last January. Do you think this was the right thing to do? In a nutshell, I think it was pretty crazy to do this. I use the word crazy because I am in support of counselors receiving more pay. I think it's you want to attract the best people to the job, and it is a job that can require a lot of time if you do it correctly, if you're interested and invested in it, so that I'm in favor of. But to do, once again, it's the way that these things are introduced that I find crazy. Kind of at the last second, in the budget, and retroactive. The retroactive part is stunning to me. We'll get to that in a second. But the councillors, so either they, and this was after the people already put their names in to be on, to run for council. So maybe more people would have wanted to put their names in had they known there'd be an increase in pay. So either council knew in advance of what was happening in the budget and they were aware, and so they didn't tell anybody, so they had kind of insider information on a pay increase, which I don't believe to be true, to be honest, or they didn't know at all this was in the budget, and they just passed it, there at that meeting. And I think that's probably more likely what was happening. I would like to hear from actual councillors on the comments on this, but either way, I think that they should know more of what's going on, and this should have been done not after the period where you couldn't put your name in for a candidate anymore. This should have been done previous to that. If they had known it was already built into the budget, they would have known this. Peggy would have known this months ago. And the retroactive part, I don't understand that. I mean, it's traditionally council votes for the next council's pay period, and they don't pay themselves. They don't get a check for the previous year. The previous time until the budget was developed. Is it illegal? No, it's all legal. It's just, it's kind of, it doesn't look good. It's not that great. And you would do that for the future. I mean, I don't know. I like that tradition. Question number 10. Rayside Bookkeeping is handling our tax bills this summer. Sorry, there's 10 questions, not 9. Do you think there's a better way? This question is going to be a open-ended answer, because I think there's some twists and turns we haven't seen come out of this yet. Just keep in mind that Rayside was hired as a bookkeeper, but they were made into our treasurer, and they were tasked with doing the property taxes. I don't know. No one knows what happened. It's a big secret. But I do know that they're no longer employed. So either they quit or they were fired, or we'll have to stay tuned to see what councillors, the mayor and the municipality are willing to tell us. But I mean, it sure would be nice to know what's happening, or what's happened with a lot of these employees and companies that have once worked for us are now gone. Our lawyer we were using, we seem to abandon our past lawyer, and we're now using Wishart's Law, Ephraim's preferred partner. It'd be nice to know why, if there's an issue with our old lawyer, and these things just seem to be big secrets. And so these would be great questions and great information to have. So that's all 10 questions. I'm kind of going out here and doing what I think a candidate's supposed to do. It's answer questions and campaign. And if you have more questions, send them to me. Even if they're tough questions, it kind of makes it. It's not supposed to be campaigning. It's supposed to be super easy. It's supposed to test people. To see if they're up for the job, because politics it's a hard job. It's a tough job, and I've experienced that. I've learned that firsthand, and I'm excited to be here, and I'm excited to answer a lot more questions. And I would challenge other candidates, particularly incumbent candidates, to do some public events and answer some questions publicly, because people want to see how councillors are interacting, publicly. Not just one-on-one, but in group settings when you have to do meetings, with the conservation or with the health unit, or you're going to meet and do presentations publicly. People want to know that our mayors and our councillors are, able to speak publicly and convey their ideas and represent our community. So thanks very much for taking the time to watch the video. There's likely more to come, and we'll see you around. Thanks. Bye.